going to look at some of the people under the radar, some of our dark horses this season. We're going to give a team and a player. Cade, let's start with you. Who are your dark horses going into this season?
This is a rarity that I get to go first, but I'll take it. We're going team first, I believe. Cincinnati Reds. I was looking at the standings, looking at some projections. Last year, the Reds were a little bit better than I thought they were. They only missed the wild card by 2 games, 82 and 80 or something like that. I think they're only projected to get around the same thing this year, around 80 games. Looking at this roster, I think if they, Matt McClain just got shoulder surgery, so he's out for a couple months, so that actually hurts this a lot. But still, I think Ellie De La Cruz, he's going to step up. I mean, we've been hearing about him. We've been hearing about so many young players that have this hype around him, but haven't put up the numbers yet. He's only 22, but I think he's going to take a step this year. They have nice pieces around him. Spencer Steer, Jake Fraley, Jonathan India all in this picture. Also, keep an eye out, Christian Encarnacion Strand, who may or may not also be my breakout player.
Oh, what a transition.
My breakout player. He batted 270. He only played, I think, 60 games last year. Batted 270. Put up 13 home runs, 7 home runs. I could be very wrong on that. He's tearing it up in spring training. 16 games in spring training. I believe he has a top 3 OPS. Spring training doesn't mean anything, but still, he's getting it done in the spring training. I was thinking about doing a guy like Jared Kelenic because the Braves just make guys good even though they may not be. But I found out that he was batting 140 in spring training, and that just would not have been good. But Christian Encarnacion Strand, he went viral last year for like his jersey being like all the way around.
Yeah, I saw that.
But he's a good player, so he's going to be my breakout player, going to lead the Reds. I'm not saying that they're going to win the World Series or anything, but maybe they'll make a wild card, and maybe they'll make a run. I don't know.
Yeah. As a Pirates fan, I don't like you picked the Reds and Encarnacion, but those are good picks because, I mean, the Reds are, like any team in that division is under the radar, so it's just anyone's division.
Well, so unlike Cade, I'm usually the one that does go first. So I usually go first, so I'm going second this time. But for my breakout team, I got to say, or my dark horse team, I will say this is the Diamondbacks. Despite them making the World Series last year, they barely got in. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's kind of like a fluke year, yada, yada. But I really think that this team, like, they have all these young prospects, all these young guys. Like we've mentioned before, Jordan Montgomery and Zach Gallen helping out the pitching rotation. I mean, this team could definitely make it again. They just got to beat the allegations and with them being flukes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like the D-backs, especially in that. I mean, it's gonna be tough in that division, especially with all those top-notch teams. But I mean, we'll have to see like how they fare up against the Dodgers and the Padres. But yeah,
last year.
Yeah. So, anyways, for my breakout player we're staying in the National League. It is O'Neal Cruz, my favorite Pittsburgh Pirate right now. Actually, I don't know. I probably got to say Key Bryant. Actually, Key Bryant is my favorite, but anyway, he's one of my top 3 favorites. O'Neal Cruz, I mean, top power in spring training this year. Spring training doesn't really mean anything, but it's good to see that he's back. He's fully healthy after being out all last year. Hopefully he learned to slide as well in the offseason. But we saw how he did his rookie year. We saw his flash. We saw the flashes. The flashes are there. I mean, the power, the speed, the fielding, the arm power. I mean, it's all there. The talent's all there. So I mean, he's definitely like a player that like a lot of people know about, but like he's on the Pirates, so like no one talks about the Pirates.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, O'Neal Cruz, my dark horse. For sure.
I like it, Ben. And I know that it was a little bit of a homer pick because that's your team. But to be fair, he was like Ellie De La Cruz before Ellie De La Cruz.
And then he got hurt.
So no one's like talked about him anymore.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's like,
fair.
But now he's coming back on the radar.
All right, now it's time for my picks. I'm going with my dark horse team out of the American League. This is a team that had their best year a couple years ago. It is the Seattle Mariners. And they have 3 aces. You heard me right. 3 aces at pitcher this year for them. George Kirby, Luis Castillo, and Logan Gilbert. They have 3 really good pitchers that can all pitch, in the 3 ERA range. They have, Cy Young potential. And then this man right here on the right is my early AL MVP pick, Julio Rodriguez.
I like that.
He had a good year last year. He did have a great year. He played 155 games. He kind of wasn't talked about a lot last year, in my opinion. He had, 30 home runs, but I think this year he takes a step up, hits that 40 home run mark. And, I could have used him as my breakout player, but the next slide is my breakout player on the team that won the World Series last year, but he didn't play. Let's see if it's.
We'll see if it comes up.
Yeah. Wyatt Langford. All right, so he's only 22 years old. He hasn't played a major league game yet, but last year when he was in single A, he only played 18 games because he had 5 homers in 18 games. So he already moved up to AAA within like 18 games. He's going to be really good for the Rangers this year. They need some use to that team. They had a lot of older pitchers last year. They had a lot of, one and done type of guys. But I think Wyatt Langford is the future of this outfield. He's really good, really talented prospect, on MLB Pipeline, and he's going to be, really good coming down the future. And I think his arm's really good too. Like watching highlights of him earlier, he's really good in the outfield at getting runners out at second and third with the relay. So I think he's going to be really good for a Rangers team that should be in the playoffs again.
Yeah.
He's been tearing it up in spring training too.
Yeah.
You mentioned they have an old team, and they got a lot of bad luck with injuries, but they still won the World Series. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Let's go to my team. Now, I'm going to disagree with Cade completely because it's someone else coming out of that division. It's the Pittsburgh Pirates. Not the Cincinnati Reds.
Win the division, I'd say that they might make the wild card.
They're not making the wild card because the Pirates
There's
are here to
three
play.
wild cards. Are there not 3 wild cards?
There's three,
There is,
but they're not going to get it. It's
Okay,
fine.
sorry, I'll give you your time.
The Pirates, we talked about them before. O'Neal Cruz is back. He's going to lead that way. Brian Hayes, young guy. They're a big young team, but they have a lot of big stars on it that are just ready to break out at the right time. And that division's winnable. The Cardinals are not the team that they've been in years past. The Reds, besides Cade, not many people like them.
Somebody said they're a dark horse.
And the Cubs are another team that just pays a lot of money without actual succeeding. But the Pirates have been building something. They're proving that pitching staff, which has been a huge issue for years. And they do have one of the best stadiums to now go with an actual good team. And I wanted to pick the Mets, but I picked someone as a Mets player, former breakup player, and that's Francisco Alvarez.
Gina Sullivan said, great preview show before opening day. Also, the host is doing an awesome job today.
That's so kind of her. Thank you, Gina, for your support for the show. And I will tell the host he's doing great. Francisco Alvarez on the New York Mets. He had 25 home runs last season and was on one of the fastest tracks in terms of hitting home runs as a catcher.
Yeah.
And he didn't even start the season in the MLB. His average is around was in the low 200s, but
211.
one of the best power hitting catchers, and that's something that's rare at that position. And he has a cannon for an arm, so he's good defensively, has the power, and now he's on a good offensive team. There's bats around him to support him, and he's really young, and he was one of the top prospects in baseball. So look out for Francisco Alvarez and the Mets to be a little interesting this season.
Yeah.
So can't count
I
them
like
out.
that pick a lot. And Chris, it also took me a lot not to pick the Mets as my dark horse team, but I don't know if you can agree with this. There's no depth on that team at all, especially when it comes to
They're in
arms.
a tough division, too.
And it's a tough
They're going to
division.
be fourth, I think, finishing in the division,
It's
just because of
gonna
how
be
tough
tough.
it is.
If
Yeah.
the Mets had anyone that could throw the baseball competently, I think I would have picked them.
Or
I mean, they
pitchers,
still
or
have
pitchers
they still have
pitchers
pretty
that
good
wanted to be
offense.
there.